Got light.
Good morning, Dove Love. Good morning.
Yes,
All right,
Holy
there we
Spirit is
are, going
visiting
live on
Sharon.
YouTube.
Sharon
Turn
and
this mic
Cliff.
over to y'all.
Okay, good morning. Thankful Thursday. This is Lorri, and good morning to Lynn and Susie and Mickey and Sharon and Dove. And today the lesson is 86, which is a review of lessons 71 and 72. 71 is only God's plan for salvation will work. 72 is holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. I'm just going to briefly touch on this one. Um, Only God's plan for salvation will work. In the regular workbook, there's that wonderful prayer that I have taught to pretty much every single client I've had for the last 20 years. And it's what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say and to whom? And that one is so helpful when you establish the practice of throughout the day. Okay, Holy Spirit, what next? What next? What next? And when I've taught that to clients, um, it it's often where you need to take a break. We do, and like Dove says, we get stuck in do in doing instead of being. And often the Holy Spirit will say, just sit and rest a while, read a book, go play a game, go walk in the woods, do something. Yes, calm down, like Susie's showing, calm down. And because we do need to settle. And something that most of us will notice when we're meditating is the thoughts that are distracting that come up are often about what are we supposed to do that day? What are we going to do later that day? Uh, Better make sure I put that letter in the mail. I better make sure I email that person. I better make sure I get the food prepared for dinner. I better get to this store. I better call that person. I better do this. I better do that. I better file my taxes. I better uh, make sure I have the right laundry soap, whatever it is. I've got to get this and this and this and this and this done. And oh yeah, Susie, what you just put in the chat. After I finish meditating, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. LOL. Yeah, and we're so caught up in that, and that's how the ego maintains its existence. And so I see that Deb came in the room, and so did Cher. So good morning. So anyway, rather than focus on lesson 86, I'm going to touch on lesson 91, which will be passed by next Thursday, because lesson 91 is one of my favorite lessons of all time because I had an awareness from this lesson that I had not had before. And basically, this lesson states that the miracle is always there. So, lesson 91 is miracles are seen in light. And it says the miracle is always there. It's nothing that we do, nothing that we pray, nothing that we meditate, nothing that we journal or clear out old beliefs or anything. It's nothing that we do that makes the miracle happen. The miracle is always there. And lesson 78 also echoes this lesson. Let miracles replace all grievances. And lesson 78 says, behind every grievance, the miracle's right there. It's just waiting for you to let go of that grievance. So if we're doing anything, it's letting go of our false beliefs. But even that, we're not the doers. We just choose again. We change our perspective and know that right there behind everything is the miracle. And in paragraph 1, line 2, he says, this needs repeating and frequent repeating until we get it and we get it so clearly. So even when we're doing that prayer of what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say and to whom? That when you repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, it becomes to where you don't even have to say it anymore. You just kind of stop and pause for a moment and you're guided without even the words. Same thing I've found with the Sedona method releasing that I do, there's a series of questions you ask yourself to release things like, could I let that go? Would I let that go? And when? And you get to the place where something comes up to be released and you don't even have to go through the sentences. You just go, oh, okay, gone. Don't want that anymore. And it becomes automatic. And that's what the Course says, that forgiveness, miracles, miracle-minded thinking, releasing, all of that stuff should just be automatic, automatic, automatic. It becomes a habit. So one of the things that Ken Wapnick in his Journey Through the Workbook says about this lesson, Miracles Are Seen in Light, is the title of the first lesson, Miracles Are Seen in Light, expresses its theme of the miracle, the choosing of which is the cause that leads to vision, the effect. We are reminded that vision has nothing to do with the body's eyes, but with a state of mind that is achieved by choosing Jesus as our teacher. So all that we do, quote unquote, is choose again. Again, choose love over fear, choose God over the ego, choose Jesus's teaching over the ego's teachings. And that then the first line in the workbook lesson says, it is important to remember that miracles and vision necessarily go together. This needs repeating and frequent repeating until we get it by rote. And later on in this lesson, it talks about, well, you don't want to be left with nothing. So you want something that replaces the emptiness that you thought was there before. So let me go ahead. Okay. It says, if you are not a body, what are you? Ask this in honesty and then devote several minutes to allowing your mistaken thoughts about your attributes to be corrected and their opposites to take their place. I am not weak, but strong. I am not helpless, but all powerful. I am not limited, but unlimited. I am not doubtful, but certain. I am not an illusion, but a reality. I cannot see in darkness, but in light. And it says right before that, you need to be aware of what the Holy Spirit uses to replace the image of a body in your mind. You need to feel something to put your faith in as you lift your mind from the body. You need a real experience of something else, something more solid and more sure, more worthy of your faith and really there. Because earlier in the session, it's talking about your body's not even there. This whole world is not even there. And then you go, what? What? And so it's saying, okay, what is really there are these attributes, these thoughts, these ideas of your true nature, your Christ self, you as the Holy Son of God. So rather than feeling weak and helpless and limited, what we are is strong, powerful, unlimited, etc., etc. So this morning in my meditation, I was just pretty much letting go of everything, every thought that came up, even the thought that, oh, I'm meditating, isn't this good? That's an ego thought about making yourself good or right or better because you're meditating. And the other day I had this strong, strong sense of, oh my gosh, wow, the ego even co-opted my meditation. It co-opts everything. It takes over and snakes its way into everything. And I had noticed that I was making up problems. And then I was saying, well, then the only problem or the only answer to that is to meditate, to know that I am the Christ, which is the one answer. But the way the ego snuck in very sneakily was making a problem that I then had to meditate to solve. There was no problem to begin with. And in the meditation, I got, oh my gosh, that's right. The Course says there's nothing going on. There's no world outside of my mind. There's no problem to be solved. So the Course meets us where we're at when we think there's problems. So lessons 79 and 80, which we just did recently, 79, let me recognize the problem that it may be solved. And 80, let me recognize my problems have been solved. The one problem, the belief in separation. The one solution, knowing that you've never separated from God and you're not separate now, and you are the Christ self. Well, even that meets us where we're at because we think we have problems. When you get outside, out the other side of that, you recognize, oh my gosh, there's not even a problem. There's not even a problem of separation. There's that belief in separation, but there is no separation. And you get that. So when I was meditating and realizing that the ego had co-opted my meditation so that I thought I was doing something in order to get over something, and then going, oh, oh, there's no problem. So this morning, every thought that came up, it was like, yep, every thought you have is pretty much an ego thought. Almost every single one of them. Let that go. Let that go. Don't believe that one. Don't believe that one. Let that one dissolve. And then just rest. Just sit in your beingness, but not like you're doing something to sit in your beingness. Your beingness is all there is. And so it was just this shift in perception, just this, oh, and that's the true freedom. That's the freedom when you're free from all of those concepts. And so often we are busy, busy, busy trying to make our lives look the way we think they should look. Let me make a successful life. Let me make even a successful spiritual practice. Let me find the only thing that means anything, which is changing the purpose of this world to the Holy Spirit's purpose. But all of those things are still nothing. And then you get to this place of true freedom, which is, oh, oh, no words, nothing to do, nothing to even be. You're not even becoming or being. It's just nothing, but nothing with everything, nothing that is full of everything. It's the truth. And that is freedom. And so with that, I'm going to turn this over to Sharon.
Oh, see, I have a lens now, but the sun is in my eyes. You know, it's funny when we talk about that we are light, you know, the ego then brings in like light like that. And this whole process is really about lightening up the mind. Of course, the mind is light because it's all light, because it's all God. But to envision it as something I knew from the past is a habit the ego has. Because the ego will co-opt this. It co-opts all of it until we realize that we're not the ego. We've never been an ego. And, you know, all the questions that the ego has is like, how did it happen? And, you know, when am I going to get rid of it? And it's talking to itself. It's not talking to anything but itself. It's thought talking to thought. So what's the main point in this process is to slow down. Right now, the ego wants to share with you that our world is becoming AI, and that I think it was Bill Gates say that we will be AI in 10 years. So right away, the ego will get in there and say, well, what's going to happen to you? They'll have no need of you. And, you know, all this information is form. It will leave us into the past, put us in the past or the future. But it chews on everything. It's this mechanism that needs to know. And you know what? We don't know anything because who we really are isn't in a world and just is tired of imagining. Imagining that, you know, I'm going to get there someday when there's no us. There is no one but presence here. And it's an amazing symphony of 10,000 things, of just being as we are in the stillness and realizing that we don't need to change anything. So now I'm going to go back into my memory bank and remember that last week I told everybody I had this histamine intolerance. And the mind was really chewing on every possible thing that could be wrong because I was itching. It seemed a lot because the ego, what it does is it's a clever mechanism that knows where the armor is there because it put the armor there. So to look at it and to realize that none of it is who I am, the itching, any of it. And then when I saw the doctor on Monday, it was wonderful. He basically is just doing tests. And what we figured out was that a lot of this is an allergy that I don't need to have the rest of my life. Okay. That if I went off the foods and now I'm back just putting one in a week to see how I can handle things. Because I really think that when I did this elemental diet, which was just amino acids and all liquid for a couple of days, that helped enormously. Because how much do we really even need to eat? Like the eating is a habit. Everything is a habit. We all know that there are beings in this world that don't eat. They get all their food from the sun. Just some way, and they're being lived by God too, because God is in everything I see. God is living through all of us, and that's why continuously we say that it's always perfect, because it's nothing. The perfection of God is that we have been God's son all along, and we were dreaming of the characters and thinking it meant something, and even that's a lie because it was over. So everything here, it's actually fun when you really look at it like this. It's all fun because if you look at this as fun, that there's nowhere to get, that you're equal to everyone, and that anyone talks about that themselves as being enlightened is kind of foolish at this point to me, because we're all enlightened. And it's another way for the ego to compare us to another, right? I played all of the games for the last 20 years, all of it. And it was fun while it lasted, but now I'm done. There's nothing I need to do. Yeah, we can look and meditate, and I love that. And breath work I love, and I do things when I'm being guided to do them. But the stopping of putting the character down all the time, it's just another repeat of what I believed before. The character's nothing. It's a thought in my mind. If the world turns out AI, we'll have less to do here. They won't need us. So what will we do? Well, we can just be, right? We can be who we truly are. If we're a miracle worker, what does that mean? Well, it's what Lorri said. The miracle's always here. We are that miracle. This moment is our miracle. The holy instant is our miracle. Just to believe that I was going to get my way here was a stretch because, first of all, there is no me. Second, this is over. Third, none of it matters. There's this movie Wicked that came out recently, and he's singing a song, "It's just life, it's meaningless," is what he's really singing. And what I have seen in the last couple of months is how consciousness is showing itself everywhere, all the time, in every movie, in every show. And it's actually ingenious. The production consciousness has put on here is extraordinary. It's the light and dark of our being. It's a story that's being told from the ego's perspective of lightness and darkness when all of it is good. What is it about darkness that's good? Well, first off, when you realize that it's a concept only, and the concept has energy attached to it. So you feel it and you realize that all energies are welcome. So that would mean that everything is God, even in the worst place ever that someone could do something. Ego doesn't separate because it's just thought. Nobody dies. I was reading Joel Goldsmith's book, The Thunder of Silence, and he repeats that no one ever dies here. Now, of course, he'll look ridiculous to the average ego, right? Because we watch people die. But when my mom died, my youngest sister said, where did she go? Well, she was never really here, but her being just went and dissolved. There was no activity from the egoic mind anymore. So what are we really losing here but a memory? And can we bring these memories back? Absolutely. That's what we're doing 24/7. So getting back to the histamine, do I have histamine? I don't have it. Sharon has it sometimes. But to take full responsibility for sight is to realize I am the witness. Being right was a very big thing for this mind because it was so unconscious. In our subconscious, unconscious mind, we don't know what's there. And, everything Ken says is true. There's a lot of guilt there. And will guilt still come up in this mind? Yes. There's no transcendence of an ego. It falls away or it balances out, but it's nothing. It's absolute nothing. So when Joe was talking, basically we don't die. And he was stating the fact, what a blessing this is. Because the ego wants to die. It wants to wait because it needs a future. It needs a future to live. It's this thought system that really embarks on the opposite of God. And it is an attack on God. Of course it is, because we're in God. But you're not guilty if you attack yourself. You are God. You can't really attack the being, right? So what is the one thing that I'm looking at the most lately? My grievances. I still have grievances, but I'm not seeing them anymore. So they're still there because I know there's a feel in you that there's more to come. So what is a grievance? It's a judgment. And when we don't know anything, we're home. There's so much I bought into in this process, and none of it was wrong because it's like training wheels. You take the training wheels off when you realize you just want to fly. Anyway, over to you, Dove. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sharon and Lorri. That's a good question. What is a grievance? Well, a grievance is something that's going on with me. Yeah. Everything comes from what's going on with me. Everything. I wanted to share a little about the power of the ideas of the course. There was this gal from China. Some of you know her because she comes here every now and then. Her name is Corey Yang. She's been to several of our Zooms. She wrote me last night and she says, "Dear Dove, can I call you when you are available? I feel very challenged. Recently, my mind keeps judging and attacking. I must be choosing wrongly, but I don't know how to come back to peace. I need your help." And she wrote me that last night, Wednesday evening. Well, that was her Thursday morning. She's over in China. And I told her, can you call me in the morning because I'm really tired right now. So we spoke this morning, and we're on video camera, and I see a big smile, and she says, something happened overnight. I can't explain it, but I'm feeling very happy now. I'm very joyful. And all the things I was thinking about last night when I wanted to talk to you, they aren't there anymore. I said, wow. And that's called like the power of willingness. He tells you in chapter 18, section 4, it's called a little willingness. Only your willingness is necessary. Your understanding or all the stuff about, I should do this, I should do that. That's the ego. Ego is into what should I do exactly, as Lorri says. It's the do of the ego. It has nothing to do with healing your mind. Mind has nothing to do with doing. It's being. And in your clear being, you already have the peace of God. You are the peace of God. You are the love of God. Just have to get all the grievances out of the way, all the distractions. And what are distractions? Are the ones that the ego put in there. I want to also say, for anyone who hasn't seen, and thank you, Sharon, you mentioned Keith with the first 5 lessons of the course. I listened to it a couple of times. Once Lynn played it at Gather, and then I listened to it. I got the original thing from YouTube, and if you haven't listened to it, there's a big aha in it that I never got until I listened to it. And for those who have listened to it, he talks a lot about Dorothy, from Kansas, little Dorothy, and the Wizard of Oz, and the Munchkins, and the Scarecrow, and all those characters. Now, I'm sure everyone's here seen Wizard of Oz many, 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 many times. And yeah, we all identify, at least I do, with Dorothy. And she falls into this deep sleep, and she has this incredible, well, it's a nice dream or nightmarish dream, whatever you want to call it. I mean, she's skipping along the yellow brick road, right? Thanks to Keith, he mentions, hey, listen, it's not that she's in a dream. I mean, she comes back to Kansas. She's in her bed with all her friends and family, right? No. The dream figure, and the word dream figure is something, actually, Keith has used it a lot, but I think it was Prudence that mentioned the dream figure is mentioned about 6, 7 times in the course. The dream figure is Dorothy. Huh? Oh, I thought the dream figure was her skipping along the yellow brick road. No, the dream figure is Dorothy. Well, what does that mean, Dove? That means that Dove is the dream figure. Dove is the dream figure. That means everybody here is a dream figure. It just takes a little willingness to make that shift. Dove is not Dove. Dove is the story of Dove coming to a big classroom called the world to learn lessons. That's the only purpose for coming here. Well, the ego says, no, I got a better purpose for you. You're going to learn how to get more. I'm going to give you all kinds of ways and understanding and knowledge so you can get more and you can be the best king of the mountain ever. You can be a billionaire. You got to laugh. I see Wendy is laughing already. You got to laugh. So, yeah, that word willingness, is I call it a hack. And there's a lot of course hacks. And I'm going to be speaking about course hacks this Sunday. All are invited to Awakening Together. Lynn Johnson is going to be my reader. And what do you think she's going to be reading from? Yep, Mandy Soak's poem. Are these the thoughts of God? It's a great poem. And the funny thing is she just came to it the day after I announced about 3 weeks ago that I wanted to do a homily here, following that Regina herself said, she says, I just realized that my thoughts are the ego's thoughts. That's what Regina said about 3 weeks ago. I said, my God, I was just coming to the same thing. Funny thing is that Keith came to the same thing on that particular week. He came to the same thing on thoughts. So yesterday I mentioned in another Zoom one I go to on Wednesday, a few of us go there, Rico goes there, Regis goes there. There seems to be a convergence going on here, and John Sunday said, yeah, he says, I hear the same story, that there's a convergence. I said, be honest with you, John, it wasn't a story. I'm having the experience of convergence, that we're coming together. Everyone's talking about the same thing. These thoughts are not my thoughts, they're the ego's thoughts. But let's go a step further. This is not the Son of God either. This is a vehicle. This is an avatar that's coming into the classroom, and the only purpose, the ego's purpose for coming to the classroom is to be a victim and to find guilt in others, to perpetuate the story as an attack against God. Holy Spirit has a purpose too. Yeah, Holy Spirit's purpose is to learn lessons. Yeah. And my mantra lesson, of course, is, I don't know what anything is for. Imagine that, lesson 25. I don't know what anything is for. And the Holy Spirit, Jesus tells you in the very first paragraph, hey, dove, the purpose of everything here is for you. Ego said, what? BS. You think that these things are for me? I got scammed. Oh, that's a good word, scam, by the way. Yeah, it came to me that I think Jesus uses the word dreams and illusions. I think it's 1,100 times. I'm not sure, but it's a high number. And I realized, out of Jesus' politeness, he doesn't use the word scam. But you can replace every time you see the word dream and every time you see the word illusion with the word scam. It's ego is scamming the Son of God. And by the way, this isn't a new thought that really came from Dove. I mean, seem to be going off a little, but I'm tell the story. Before I ever did A Course in Miracles, and some of you remember I said I could never have done the course if I hadn't done S first. And Gary Renard says the exact same thing. Gary did it just about the same time that I did it. And he says he would never done the course without S. And Werner Erhard was, he was a very astute, wise guy. He was a wise man. And I remember he gave a session. I think it was in Madison Square Garden. I'm not quite remember where, but I think it was in Madison Square Garden. And he gave a session on. It was like thousands of people listening, and he said, S is a 2-weekend seminar, and it cost $250 in those days, then went to $300 and went to $400. He says, but do you know what the most expensive seminar that there is? He says, what do you think that people are most afraid of? And he says, yeah, most people say, well, public speaking. No, people aren't really afraid of public speaking. Afraid of death? No. He said, people aren't really afraid of death. What they're most afraid of is being conned. And why is that? Because we got conned in coming here. Now, what's another word for con? We were scammed in coming here. The ego is a scam. You gotta laugh. I see Zoom is laughing. Zoom's laughing. You gotta, when's the last time, I get scammed a lot. You gotta laugh. Does anyone want to share anything? I mean, we have a lot of people here. So before we get back to Lorri, anyone want to share anything? If no hands, Lorri, it's over to you.
Thank you, Dove. That was great. Wow. That word scam that is just so popular in modern day talking and all these AI scams that are happening now where they're replicating celebrities and all that and scamming people. And I had watched one with Tom Hanks, and I had told a friend about it. I said, I saw Tom Hanks, and I'm not sure about it, and I'll check it out, because it sounds like it might be a scam, but boy, it seemed real. But there was one part in the video where it looked a little funky, and I thought, okay. But I thought, wow, if Tom Hanks is recommending this, this must be really good, right? So initially, I was scammed. But as I was telling my friend, and he's going, meh, and then I checked it out and said, yep, you're right. It was a scam. But I love what you just said about Werner Erhard saying what we're most afraid of is being scammed, being conned, because we are being conned. We are conning ourselves. So it's like Job, what I have feared has come upon me. Well, we're doing it to ourselves. The secret of salvation is just but this. I'm doing this unto myself. And when we wake up and we get it, we go, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And that's what I felt. Well, I mean, I've had that feeling, and I'm sure we all have many times in our meditation or our reading or whatever. We just go, oh, whoa, I get it. Everything this course is saying is true. And then, of course, we go back to our regular daily doo-doo and, and we lose it all because we're caught up in our scams. We're caught up in the things that distract us, the things that are trying to pull us away. And Sharon, you mentioned that. And that was about eating. Eating is a habit and it's a distraction. And that was in the reading of the Bill Thetford, the book about never forget or always remember to laugh or whatever, never forget to laugh or whatever, the Carol Howe book the other day that you guys were reading it. It was talking about Bill wanting to stand by the door so he could make an escape, which is a distraction. And then also wanting to go to his office to have a cigarette, which of course you can't do now. You got to go outside, but going and it said, Jesus said, well, that's just another distraction. And that's what I've been thinking of lately is that this, the munching that I do at night, the comfort eating of cookies and candy. Well, that's just a distraction. That's just a distraction from what I really want. And I've had so much conflict over it, like, well, don't eat too much of that stuff, and then I have the conflict of, I know that there's no cause in food anyway. The Course tells it that there's no cause and effect in form. And we think there is. Eat the right amount of protein, eat the right amount of carbs, blah, blah, blah. You won't get sick. Well, let's see how well that works. But anyway, I get all this conflict. But the real conflict is that I'm distracting myself from being. I'm distracting myself from what I really am and making up an issue that's not even there. And that's what I was talking about earlier, that all the problems and the daily issues, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to make sure I do this, I got to make sure I do that. Oh, I got to do this because otherwise my life is not successful or good, or I'm not doing the right thing or whatever. Distraction, distraction, distraction. That's all they are. They mean absolutely nothing. And so, like when we have we have eating issues or whatever, or like Sharon, you were saying, let's just have fun with it all. If you want to do that, have fun, but don't put any meaning on it. Doing our breath work or doing our meditation is in one way no different than collecting baseball cards because it's It's just something that the ego does. And one of my clients the other day, she was saying, like in our session, we were doing an EMDR session, and what occurred to her while she was doing it was, wow, all the things that I've been doing to wake up or to be a better person or to be a more spiritual. She goes, they're all ego too. Oh my gosh, they're all ego. And Lynn, you just put your hand up, so I'll give the mic to you.
Okay, so yeah, so this is so interesting, and I'm just going to offer a completely different point of view, because Wayne and I have been reading The Impersonal Life on Mondays, and in The Impersonal Life, um, which I believe is downloaded also from the source, from Jesus or whomever, he says, what you're here for is to experience, um, and God is experiencing through you. God made us to experience. And so, if I'm cooking, I'm taking Jesus with me. Jesus is cooking with me. If I'm eating, Jesus is eating with me. If I'm, whatever it is I'm doing, Jesus is doing it with me. God is doing it with me, through me. All these things are being done through me. So it's not just a distraction or just a this or that. It's purposeful. So that so that we can experience the joy of it, not so that we can be in denial of it and say this is not worthy of, Jesus or God or whatever, and this is the ego that's trying to trick me out or anything like that. God is experiencing life through me. And if God is experiencing life through me, then God wants to experience joy. And if I experience that life with joy, I'm eating a cookie with joy, I'm drinking my coffee with joy, I'm joining with you guys in joy, I'm, taking a shower in joy, all of these things, I'm actually doing what I'm here to do. There's no need to reject it or be afraid of it or think that, this is just the ego that's doing this and that and the other thing. Actually, the point is to just experience the joy, because that's what you are here for. And that's what is happening through us. And I think, a lot of times, because A Course of Miracles is so tends to kind of focus on um, the getting caught up in the trap of the ego, and being upset by the ego, made afraid by the ego, all that kind of stuff. That's all valid, fine, and good, but the opposite side of it is being in joy through all of it, and the ego being a mechanism, the body itself being a mechanism for God to experience the joy of our life. And experiencing the joy of our life is a much more, I think, worthy assessment of what's happening here. So, I've stopped edging God out of things and just started bringing God into everything that I do, and experiencing the love, the joy, the freedom, the playfulness, the happiness, all of it through this being, because it's God experiencing life through me. And yes, as Deb said, I choose the joy of God instead of pain. It's the joy that I'm looking for. And God's will for me is perfect happiness, not to be, upset at myself for eating a cookie. God's God's joy, God loves cookies. That's how I see it anyway. So I will let go of the mic. And I think Wendy had her hand up. But I'm not sure. So, and of course, Zelma's not going to be here today, by the way, so we can go over.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. I saw an emoji with Wendy. If you want to put your hand up, go ahead, but I'm not sure it was the hand But yeah, Lynn, you raise a really, really important point. And I think first I want to welcome the other people. Regis dropped off. He was in here for a minute. Then Glorian came on, and then Wendy came on. Yeah, so I just wanted to say hi to them. So what you were just saying brings up a really important point. I think the meaning is the joy and the meaning is the love. And whether you get that through the form of a cookie or you get that through the form of collecting baseball cards or swimming or walking in the woods or making love, or the meaning, the meaning is the love and the joy and the expression of the self of joy and love. It's the form that's meaningless. So when I'm saying it's all of it means nothing, we attach ourselves to these forms. We attach ourselves to these people, these bodies, these forms, or these particular activities, and we make the form the meaning. So you're absolutely right, Lynn, and Joel Goldsmith, The Impersonal Life. If it's, I think you said it was Goldsmith. That's correct. And I think it's like what Wendy put on the board. She put, I think it depends on how you are experiencing it. If you think it comes from the body, then that's a misperception. If you think, because the Course will say that all of your thoughts come from wanting the body's comfort, entertainment, or protection in some way. In chapter 18, section 7, I need do nothing. The body doesn't exist at all. And at all your thoughts are about you haven't been able to forget the body, and all your thoughts are about the body. And so when we're able to get to that place that you're talking about, Lynn, about which would be the Holy Spirit's purpose for the body as a mechanism, as a learning device, a communication device for that oneness and that joy, that is the Holy Spirit's purpose. So one of the things you said, what we're here for, to experience God, that one is very tricky, and it goes right back to what Wendy was saying. It depends on how you're using it or how you're seeing it. I've always taken issue with the Hindu idea of God needs us to experience God, or we need to experience God by coming here. By coming here, meaning earth form. Well, here is everywhere, for one thing. Here and now is everywhere, always. It's not dependent on earth or anything. But my concern with that is, I don't think God wants to come here to experience rape and war and cancer and the diseases of the body and the decay and aging of the body. So that one has always bothered me, because some of the metaphysical, or I don't know if it's in Hinduism or not, but it's like, oh, it's all good. All the dark and the light, it's all good. I've never, ever, ever agreed with that. But I do agree with, beyond the duality of dark and light, there's only light. Beyond the duality of bad and good, there's only good. Beyond the duality of love and hate, there's only love, et cetera, et cetera. God is all good. And so, yes, are we here to experience ourselves as God? Absolutely. Just for me, I wouldn't put that in terms of the form, the physical form, because physicality, bodies, any form by its very nature has to die. It has to appear to be born. It has to appear to die. And birth and death are not of God. And decay is not of God. And illness is not of God. So that's just the slant I would put on that. I just want to read what Wendy wrote on the board and what Dove wrote. Dove wrote, "You are not your mind and body. You are one with the mind of peace, love, and allness. And salvation is escape from all concepts." Yes. So yes, when we escape all concepts, or when we let go of all concepts, what are we left with? that experience of joy when we're not judging eating that cookie. We're just in joy. I love cookies. Cookies and candy are my absolute favorite foods. And my girlfriend, she's a nutritionist, and she goes, Laura, she goes, one of your 4 food groups is chocolate. I'm like, yeah, but I can overdo it too at times. So Wendy wrote, quantum physicist Niels Bohr said, everything we call real is made of things that cannot be regarded as real. Yeah, everything we call real is made of things that cannot be regarded as real. And physics does show us that there is no objective reality out there. And so it's all projections from our mind. And when our mind is healed, what are we left with? We're left with that joy and that love. So I'm going to turn this over now to back to Sharon. Yeah.
Thanks, Lori. Lynn had brought in that, the Impersonal Life book, which I have, and I've read parts of it, but Inner Ramada was brought to us in 2009 in Gather. And that book is very different from NTI and the Course in the sense that it says you are here to have fun. And I don't know the exact words because I haven't looked at the book in a while, but it's basically the opposite what the Course is saying. You're not really here, the Course is saying. But what happened, I guess, and I don't know this, but I'm guessing with Regina's mind, the Eastern teachings were coming through. And that's where Inner Ramada came from. But I think sometimes, and I like what Lynn shared about, we are so conditioned from the Course to feel that this is an awful place, a prison, and we can enjoy it. And, it's funny, the way I see this whole thing is the inner teacher is guiding you. And I have fun a lot because I do enjoy the world of 10,000 things. I do love to work with kids. I love to do art. And what I feel like, as God's son or God, an extension of God, we really have the ability to discern, to say that it's very boring after a while when we keep listening to phenomena as we are, shifting, because we realize everything is the same. It's all illusory, and we can observe it because that's what we are. We're really the observer. The character has never been us because the character is just a thought. We have memories of the character, and all those memories are not necessarily accurate. Just, well, if I say just think, that's the worst thing you can do because thinking is the problem. It's the thinking mind that's doing all of this with problems. So I think it's important that we just look at all of this and we realize that it's all good. It's all good because even in the long run, it's to further the Son of God to return out of this ridiculous dream. And it is ridiculous. I mean, at this time, we look at the world and the hate that seemingly is out there. And that is so necessary for us to see how awful it is to be an ego. Inner Ramana is not saying be the ego and have fun. You can't because you're in duality. The shift has to happen internally. And when it does, you realize that everything is for me. And what happens to the personal mind of Sharon is really helpful when I see it as a gift. Now, I'm not saying that I always see things as a gift either, but that's what I pray for. Because the truth is, we aren't here and we're not there. This is a recording. We are being recorded. We took these pictures and we are reviewing them now. And, I still find myself looking in the mirror, fixing my hair, wanting to look okay. All of that is just habit energy. And you can have fun with that rather than judge it. Yeah, so it's just a matter of just saying to yourself, and I'm teaching me because I cannot teach one other person because I can only see my own mind. is that I don't look at us as better because we got on this path. There's no one better. I do look at us as very blessed. Because if I knew this was real, or if I thought this was real, it would be upsetting for this kind of nervous system that I have. But the nervous system is on its way winding down and realizing that timelessness is where I want to sit. And with timelessness, that's all that's really here. If we are in the phenomena, we are going back and forth just like a movie. When you watch a movie, they go from the beginning, they go to the past, then they go to the future. That's what's happening in our minds. It's a reflection of all egos. So just enjoy because you are joy. Live in your God self, your natural state, which is joy. No, it's not the joy of saying, "Oh, I had such a good time." That's not necessarily it. It's just all is well joy. That you know 100% that nothing happened. And that if somebody thinks you're insane, you could care less. Because when you hold the I am presence as who we are, as I am, we have all the power we need. Over to you, Dove, to close. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, we are the joy. When it says, I choose the joy of God, you're really choosing yourself. And I'm not talking about not Dove, the dream figure self. That's that, whenever he uses the word mind in a small m and self in a small self, that's the body, mind, self. Has nothing to do with the Son of God. Nothing. Zero. Dove is not the Son of God. Dove is a dummy. We're not talking about intellect. We're talking about an avatar, artificial intelligence. And yes, Lorri, that's exactly what's going on now. There's more scamming going on now than ever before. Why? Because AI can do anything it wants. That's the ego. We live in the ego's movie theater. Hey, the movie's on. What do you want to watch? Comedy, action, suspense, horror, fiction, science fiction? I'll show you anything you want. It's one of those 10 theaters in one theater, whatever theater you want to go. I got to admit, lately, I made up my mind this week. I only want to really watch comedies from now on, literally. I was watching, one of my usual CIA, and all of a sudden I said, what do I want to watch all this shooting for? What do I need that for in my life? All of a sudden I found this thing called 2 week notice with I can't think of his name, the English actor Hugh Grant, the two, and also had what's her name? I can't think of her name. The actress in 2 week notice. I never laughed so much in my life. I was laughing out loud. And I noticed I do a lot of laughing, more laughing now than ever before. I guess when all those times I put you gotta laugh, I'm laughing. You gotta laugh. Yeah, thanks, Regis. And then I thought I had seen Notting Hill, which is a much earlier Hugh Grant. I always passed it up. I said, no, I'm going to see this one too. Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts. Oh man, I laughed and I cried during that. You can really cry during that thing because they go, there's the yes and there's the no, the yes and the no, and finally it's yes. And so I recommend watching comedies for sure. Yes, Susie says Dove is Dorothy. That's right. So again, if you have not heard I gather, Lynn played him, I think, twice yesterday. Keith Kavanaugh. If you haven't heard this past Sunday, he calls it the first 5 lessons of the course, and Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz, and for me, I literally went from one level to another level. It move you right up to without ladders level, And talking about ladders, we all know that Ken Wapping says, "Oh, you got to pick the right teacher with the right ladder, and then there's another ladder, I'm going to be talking about hacks, meaning things that will get you up the ladder faster, things that are right there, obvious, and we don't see it until they're pointed out to you, and Jesus points out in Who Are the Teachers of God in the Teacher's Manual. He says, hey, the purpose of this course is to save time. So if he's giving you a course to save time, don't you think he puts a lot of hacks in there too? But the ego can't see the hacks because the ego is trying to understand the course. Understanding, and by the way, this was also from Werner Erhard. He said, in this world, understanding is the booby prize. The ego analyzes, spirit accepts. I think that's a 4-word sentence. Ego analyzes, spirit accepts. Now, Dove has found the ingredient for moving up the ladders quickly. I call it grease. It greases the movement. And do you know what that grease is in course terms? Acceptance, which we all know is the opposite of resistance. Ego doesn't want to climb ladders, baby. I don't want to go any. I like it here. I like the iambic pentameter. I'm so in love with iambic pentameter. Yeah, I mean, he thinks Jesus doesn't know the ego is reading along. Hey, he said in one place he says, "Hey, you have eyes that don't see, you have ears that don't hear, and you have a brain that doesn't think." Who do you think he's talking to? You gotta laugh. He knows the ego is reading along. Egos love the course, by the way. Please don't think the egos don't like. The ego loves the course because it wants to be the smartest ego on the block. Hey, king of the mountain. I know more than anyone else. More. Oh, that's a good word. More. The Antichrist. Yeah. I can go on and on with this stuff. But is there anyone out there who wants to share anything?
Yeah, I do. I want to wrap up a few things. I know we can go over because Zulma's not on today. So what you were just saying about the convergence, and we all seem to be thinking the same thing at the same time, and I love that because it's one mind, and it's similar to when there are big inventions. And several people will have the idea for the invention at the same time. And whoever gets to the patent office first is the one who seems to get the credit. But it comes in with the one mind. So, Dove, you were saying, you were thinking, I only want to watch comedy. I'd been thinking the same thing too. And the other thing that you mentioned, and sounds like Susie too, the other thing you mentioned was the convergence where Regina and Keith were talking about, oh my gosh, all my thoughts are ego thoughts. And that's what I was saying earlier. It's like, oh my gosh, everything's an ego thought, even the thoughts that I'm trying to be the Christ. Everything's an ego thought. And I also wanted to piggyback again on what Lynn was saying about feeling like sometimes you can get to the world is so awful through A Course in Miracles. And that's another area where I've been doing the same thing. We're like, you know what? man, if I just do A Course in Miracles, I can get nihilistic and feel like I don't even want to be here. What's the point? Blah, blah, blah. And at the same thing with you, Lynn. It's been like, I just want to be present and experience love and joy with everything. And I use that lesson that you've been mentioning a couple times today, Dove, the lesson 190. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. And that was the seminal lesson that got me over decades of depression. So I would go to that one. No, I choose the joy of God instead of pain. And I still use that lesson all the time. So I just wanted to talk about that, all these convergences, how again, we're all thinking the same thing and we're all growing and we're all letting go of the belief in the ego, the belief in our thoughts, the belief that the world has to be icky, and starting to just experience love and joy more fully. So that's all I have to say there. And thank you, everyone.
All right. Yeah. I just want to point out that in lesson 190, and here's another hack that you can use for sure. And I noticed it a few years ago, and I was going to start using that hack, but anyone can use it. In review 6, which follows the last 20 lessons, 181 to 200, he says any one of these last 20 lessons from 181 to 200 is the entire course. Imagine, he's giving you a hack. In other words, you can do all 365 lessons if you want, but do any one of these 181 to 200 perfectly, and that's the entire course. And now, if that's not a hack, what is? I mean, really. I was about to say, forgot what I was going to say, but anyway, simply, oh yeah, your willingness to really step back and ask the big question or look at the big picture is your willingness to get out of the ego's way. Lesson 190, that's what I wanted to say. In lesson 190, in paragraph 8, he tells you the actual reason why we go through pain and suffering. And I don't know of any other place other than, well, he tells you in a million places because you're listening to the ego and you believe in guilt. But where's that guilt come from? In paragraph 8, he says, you paid a handsome ransom to go through this thing that you're going through. And the only reason you're going through it is you wanted to deny your father the glory of his son. Yeah. You want to deny your father the pleasure, the love of his son's love. That seems to be, a tiny idea entered into eternity, and the Son of God remembered not to laugh. He took it seriously. Yeah. Your love wasn't good enough. I'll show you. I can find more. That's a good word, more. And more is equated with the Antichrist. We went from Christ to Antichrist. And, if you read that chapter 29, section 8 on the Antichrist, he starts off, do you think you know what an idol is? Now, even though he uses that, let me kind of play with the word. Do you think you know what a scam is? Well, the goal of the scam, or the purpose of the scam, is to be obscure to you so that you don't even know you're being scammed. He uses the word idol instead of the word scam. And he goes 2.5 pages And finally, in the last page of chapter 29, section 8, he says, you know, the idol that everybody worships, or the one that everybody gets scammed by, is more. You think you can get more? More of what? Oh, I want to be a billion. 1 billion is not enough. I need 150 billion. Then I haven't. Maybe it's not enough. I actually heard a good friend of Warren Buffett's. A lot of people know who Warren Buffett is. Charlie Munger. He was being interviewed by a journalist towards the end of his life. He passed away a couple of years ago, and he was talking about how he amassed his money, which is wonderful. And at the very end, he says, you know, I did make a few mistakes. And Dove says he's going to say something about, you know, that he forgot his children, or maybe, you know, he didn't spend enough time with his family, or whatever. He said, I made a few mistakes. I actually could have made more. I mean, that's exactly why this world is such a scam, because we actually think there's something to get. I think one of the greatest hacks is seek not outside yourself. You will always fail. Seek and do not find. And that's all we're doing, is looking outside of ourselves. There's nothing out there. I mean, how many times do you have to tell you? There's nothing there. And I do want to share here what I said for many years, you know, when in chapter 18, section 6, Beyond the Body. And this past week, it was during a Zoom session right here at Gather, that I realized that sentence, the first sentence in chapter 18, section 6, Beyond the Body, it says, there's nothing outside of you. This is what you must ultimately learn. And I remember reading it. It was a good 45 years ago. And I said, what? There's nothing outside of me? This is what and then I said, okay, the word ultimately means one day, maybe in heaven, who knows? One day I'll understand what that means. But right now, hey, it's a lot of stuff outside of me, you know. Then it finally came to me this week. Of course, there's nothing else. He's not talking to Dove, the mind-body Dove. He's talking to the Son of God. There's nothing outside of the Father and the Son, and nowhere does it say where the Father ends and the Son begins. They are one. And there's nothing outside of the one. That's true. I said, my God, now I understand it. And you can only understand it exactly when John Mundy said a number of years ago, hey, Dove, do you know what the word ultimately means? It's not in the future, it's now. And right now, we are one, always one. Never been anything other than one. Only the ego lives in time, past, future. God and his Son live in the eternal now. And what is eternity? Endless nows. Endless nows. There's no end to now. It's always the same one. Any thoughts? Anybody share? Anyone? Hello?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm going to ask really quickly if someone would like to take some time. Apparently, Karen won't be here either. So, and I do have a video from Karen that I will play. It's only like 30 minutes or something, but so yes, I do have some thoughts. while y'all are thinking about that. And I want to actually, let me do this real quick. I need to put this so that people on Gather can hear me. Otherwise, they don't. All right. So we were talking about lesson 190. And I really, let's just take a real quick look. I'm going to put it up on the screen at what Jesus is really telling us here in this lesson. I choose the joy of God instead of pain, all right? And I don't know if you can see this. This is this is what you were just talking about, the paragraph 8. Pain is the thought of evil taking form and working havoc in your holy mind. All right, right there, that's a clue, right? It's a thought of evil taking form and working havoc in your holy mind. Pain, this whole idea about the war and the children and the animals and the everything that we envision and imagine pain it is painful to us. Violence, evil, all of that. It's the thought of evil taking form and working havoc in your holy mind. It means that I believe that that evil is true and evil can hurt me. Pain is the ransom you have gladly paid not to be free. And why would we not want to be free? Well, because if we gave up pain, we would give up this world and we wouldn't have to deal with this illusion anymore. But, just like Dorothy when she was wandering around in Oz, as much as she wanted to go home, she still really wanted to be where she was and to help out and do whatever the things that she was involved in, even though she really wanted to go home, right? But she didn't want to go home enough to figure out the way to do it. Let me see. Okay. So and it took, Galinda, the good witch, which now we all from Wicked know, that's not such a hot thing either. But anyway, uh, so pain is the ransom that we've paid. It's what we've paid to be able to live in this world and experience life in the body. Life in the body. That the ego has its own purpose. And it's not God's purpose. God also has a purpose for us to be here in this world and live in this body. God also has a purpose for us because otherwise it wouldn't be happening. Okay, that's the common sense that reading Joel Goldsmith and reading The Impersonal Life comes to say. If God didn't want it to happen, it would never have happened. It couldn't be. So even if it's just a dream, an illusion, and a story in our mind, God is still here. And God is everywhere. There's no place that God is not. So, this pain, this suffering that we seem to be experiencing is a choice, a purposeful choice to what? Excuse me, to deny God our his son, to keep ourselves separate from our source, to deny God the love that belongs to him and that belongs to me, because the love is not just me to him, it's him to me, it's both of us together. Love is the way that we live in God. So in pain does fear appear to triumph over love. It appears to triumph over love, and time replace eternity in heaven. And the world becomes a cruel and bitter place where sorrow rules and little joys give way before the onslaught of the savage pain that waits to end all joy in misery. Okay, so that's, the purpose, the ego purpose of everything is to poke us, to tease us, to hurt us, to make us cry, to make us afraid. That's the whole point of the ego, because that's what keeps us in the dream. If we didn't have those things, we wouldn't stay in the dream. So that, is not really what I wanted to talk about. What I really want to talk about is where he says here in paragraph 9 and 10. Okay, let's see here. Hang on. Who we got? Okay. Let's see. In paragraphs 9, he says, lay down your arms and come without defense into the quiet place where heaven's peace holds all things still at last. Lay down all thoughts of danger and of fear. Let no attack enter with you. Lay down the cruel sword of judgment that you hold against your throat, and put aside the withering assaults with which you seek to hide your holiness. He doesn't talk to us about behavior, like, how to live in the world and but he does talk to us about the way that we behave with ourselves and we behave with the world. And, every time I, turn on the news or look at um, something, flashing across the internet, and I make a judgment about a brother, I make a judgment about a situation, I make a judgment about the environment, the allergies, whatever it is. I am attacking the world that I think I see. And I'm the one who is not only making the world, but attacking the world. And so I'm just attacking myself. It is my own doing. So, if I look at the war and I cry over the children, I, there's some part of me that wants that and wants that to keep going, because that's what keeps me feeling alive. That's why, you have a lot of times people, younger people especially, who have mental health issues, but even it doesn't matter. We are we are as having a body predisposed to want to hurt it. So, that's why we, pick at our skin, or bite our nails, or starve it to try to lose weight because we don't like the way that it looks, or exercise to the point where we're exhausted because we want to try to make it better, improve it. It's all because we hate it. We do everything we can to hurt it. And people are recognizing now that it's a very common thing. I mean, I do this all the time. I pick at my fingernails. I pick at my face. I play with my hair. I'm, constantly doing something, and it's a stimulation. It's a stimulation that keeps you aware of it. It keeps you aware and uh, alert to the process of the body. So what he's saying is, you're doing this to yourself, and he's asking us to lay down our arms, stop attacking ourselves. Stop attacking yourself, Lynn. It's not fun. It's not fun. It's not nice. And when you can stop attacking yourself and not bring that attack into your meditation, into your prayer, into your work, into your relationships, and we bring attack everywhere. That's why, I love the nonviolent communication, because it really points out to me where I'm attacking and when I'm attacking. So here will you understand there is no pain. Here does the joy of God belong to you. This is the day when it is given you to realize the lesson that contains all of salvation's power. All right, this is big. It's the lesson that contains all of salvation's power. It's right here, okay? Right here. If you want to know how to do it, what's happening, here it is. This is the lesson. It is this: pain is illusion. My pain, your pain, the children's pain, the people at the war pain, the people with cancer pain, my fingernail pain. It's illusion. Pain is illusion. Joy is reality. Pain is illusion. Joy is reality. Pain is but sleep. Joy is awakening. Pain is deception. Joy alone is truth. And that's why he's urging us to feel the joy, to look for the joy. Like look for the helpers, like Mr. Rogers' mother told him. Look for the joy because it's there and it's there in everything. And if we look at these things that seem to be going, wrong and we focus on it, then we're picking up our arms and going to war. And this is might say, well, you're just saying to ignore all the bad things that are happening. Yes, because nothing bad is happening. That's an illusion. It's so funny. It cracks me up so much. Everybody says, well, Keith has said this, Keith said that, Ken says this, Ken says that. Jesus said it all first. They're just repeating what they heard. Regina's repeating what she heard. Everybody's just repeating what we heard and thinking that this is a new idea. Oh my God. Where did this idea come from? How brilliant. The Wizard of Oz. Oh my God, I've never thought about that before. Of course we have, over and over and over and over and over. But because of the shield of oblivion that the ego just keeps up there by, popping up all these other ideas and keeping us, we don't see it. So that's why I have to read the course over and over again. If I didn't have that, I could just read it once and be done. I could do the lessons once and be done. I could do any lesson between uh 190 or 181 to 200 and be done. But I can't because I'm so distracted by the story, the pain, the suffering. Oh my God, look at this world, how terrible it is. And as long as I keep focusing that point and keep looking there, looking there, looking there, I'm going to continue to be surprised when I hear something new. Oh my God, I never thought about that. You know, I'm not saying I'm going to go away from this and forget about it, but not forget about it because I probably will. But uh, I, every Monday when I read The Impersonal Life with Wayne, every time we read Joel Goldsmith, every time I read the course, I'm reminded the purpose of your life here is to express God. The body is a communication device. It's only made, the only purpose of it that has any purpose at all is to express God, express joy, be in joy. And so again, we make the only choice that can ever be made. We choose between illusions and the truth, or pain and joy, or hell and heaven. Let our gratitude unto our teacher fill our hearts as we are free to choose our joy instead of pain, our holiness in place of sin, the peace of God instead of conflict, and the light of heaven for the darkness of the world. That's I mean, that's the only choice we have. That's what he just said. It's the only choice you have. You can either choose to be in joy or you can choose to suffer. Choose one. And again, I can either be happy or I can be right. Choose one. Happiness is the only logical choice. Joy is the only logical choice. And so now when I look at things, what can bring me joy with this? How can I be in laughter? When Dove said a little while ago, what is the key to all of this? And he answered it is acceptance. And I absolutely agree, acceptance. But what came to my mind was laughter. Is the laughter. When I can learn to look at this and laugh, then I'm no longer in suffering, grief, pain, sadness. I'm in joy, just like a baby. I have little grandbabies and they're so joyful. They're just naturally happy. And that's our nature. And that's really all I have to say. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share?
Yeah, I can take the mic for a few minutes. Yeah. Ken's last workshop, I think he did it in the summer of 2013, was taking the ego lightly. And, throughout Ken's teachings, and, I've listened to Ken for years and years and years, he says, do not take anything in this world seriously. And he says, Jesus doesn't want you to take anything here, even in the course, seriously. He said, and this is where you get the idea. Of course, the ego is reading the book. He says, the ego feels it's got to do everything correct. If you've ever had this thought, oh, I didn't do that lesson well enough, I'm going to repeat it and go back and do it again. That's the ego. That's the ego saying, no, I didn't do it. No. Jesus doesn't expect you to do the course perfectly. Only the ego thinks I got to do it perfectly. Or, because the ego says, well, I want. No, your willingness is all that is necessary. Willingness, and I was, I'm going to probably use this on Sunday at Regina's place. Regina has 3 or 4 things that she said in the years that she used to teach here to gather that I, still hold on to as, gospel stuff. One of them is her story one of them is a story that people used to call Regina up and tell her their story, and they wanted counseling. They wanted to know what Regina would do, and she was getting so many calls she didn't know what to do. And then one day it came to her. She says, no matter who calls and what they have to say, I only have one answer. Are you willing to let it go? That's the only thing she has to say. And if they say yes, she says, good, there's nothing I can do for you, and hang up. If they say no, she says, okay, there's nothing I can do for you, and hang up. And everything comes from our willingness to let it go. And I thought that's like an amazing hack. I mean, you can talk to people for hours. Are you willing to let it go? No. Okay, nothing I can do for you. Are you willing to let it go? Yes. Great. I need to do nothing. The other hacks that she has, I love the one where she came up with spirit, giving to spirit, through spirit, what spirit requests. Oh my God. That's chapter 29, section 4, dream roles, all wrapped up in one sentence. Spirit, giving to spirit. Yeah, somebody's screwing me. What spirit requests? Yeah, I want to be scammed. Spirit giving to spirit, through spirit, what spirit requests. Someone said, well, I don't want to be scammed. Oh, really? Really? Oh, you don't want to play the victim? Really? You want to be Mr. Innocent and somebody did it to you? They're guilty. That's the reason you came here, to show how innocent you are and how guilty other people are. The reason we came here is we got conned, and we still are afraid of being conned. Anything you're afraid of is going to happen. Yeah. You got to laugh at this stuff. Susie says she came up with my favorite word: peace, love, joy, happiness, bliss, all one word. What is, oh, it's all one word: peace, love, joy, happiness, bliss. Okay, I got it. All connected with hyphens: peace, love, joy, happiness, and bliss. I came up with one word, by the way, recently on the internet. When I say we are one, it's not 3 words, it's 1 word. We are one is 1 word. No hyphens. No hyphens. I don't use hyphens. Yes, we are one. That's exactly it. We are one word. That's one mind. ACIM Gather is part of one mind, one word, one love. Are there any thoughts? Anyone at all? No. No.
I feel like I have a limited amount of thoughts in my brain today, and I'm saving them for
Okay.
when I have to go on.
Yeah. Some of the other hacks that I came up with, by the way, let's see if I can come up. Awareness is a great hack. The most famous awareness in the course is what is heaven? Heaven is simply an awareness of perfect oneness. That's such a great hack. I mean, how can you talk about heaven any other way than using the word awareness? Oh, by the way, that's one of the other 4 that I think of from Regina. She came up with a long time ago, way back, I don't know, 2008, 2009, awareness watching awareness, awareness watching. And she had a whole bunch of people who used to say it all the time. Cheryl used to use it all the time, awareness watching awareness. Pam, now Pam Mills. Almost everybody at Gather was using awareness watching awareness. I didn't for some reason, but now, but basically the word awareness is a big hack. And Sharon is still here, and I just want to say, Sharon, and if you take this any other way other than the way it's intended, thanks to Sharon's pointing out about the word platitude, that's how I got here. I was thinking, Sharon is right. How does platitudes help me? Platitudes do not help the ego, mind, body. Do not. The ego, mind, body needs a full explanation. That's why Jesus comes up with the idea of iambic pentameter. It's a run-on sentence that the ego says, "Oh, well, I don't quite follow that. Let me go back and look at it again." Now, if you use enough acceptance, you're not reading the iambic pentameters anymore. If you use acceptance, well, I can accept that. No, I can't accept it because I don't understand it yet. I got to analyze it. He has a 4-word sentence. Ego analyzes, spirit accepts. I can't accept something I don't understand. I can't accept it. I mean, why should I accept a platitude like I am spirit? I mean, what does that mean? I am spirit. What does that mean? It's only a 3-word sentence. I need more. Oh, okay. It's lesson 97. I'll give you 4 paragraphs more. Actually, it was pointed out to me, and I don't know who it was. It could have been Lorri. Somebody here pointed out that every lesson title is a 3, 4, 5, 6-word sentence. And that's true, by the way. I know many people who consider course titles the entire course. I do.
That was me, Dev.
Who? It was you,
Mickey.
Mickey?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mickey. Yes, thank you. It was you. And by the way, I totally acknowledge the contribution of Keith on his last thing. I told Lynn I think it was magnificent, excellent teaching. But it came to me, wait a minute, Dove has been saying about 20, 25, 30 years now that lesson 1 is the entire course. What? Lesson 1? I've been called a fraud and a lot of other things for that. Or the word wasn't fraud, but that's ridiculous. Like, why would you say such a thing? I mean, first of all, Jesus tells you in the introduction, before you get to lesson 1, he says, hey, I'll sum up this whole course for you in these few lines. And each line is only 4 words long, maybe 3, 4. Let's see. What's real can't be threatened. Period. That's a hack. What's unreal doesn't exist. Period. That's a hack. He sums up the whole course of 1,300 pages, but he knew that if he only gave Helen those what's real can't be threatened, nobody would ever have heard of A Course in Miracles, because even Helen would say, what? What does that mean? Who cares? Remember, he was speaking to a very resistant mind. And that's another flavor I want to take right now. Seeing Dorothy, and I give all credit to Keith for that story of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. Seeing Dorothy as the dream figure goes right back to, and I need a little help with this. Who is the woman? Who is Pam's mother? From FIP, Pam.
Tam's mother, Judy.
Judy. Okay, Judy Scutch. Thank you. Okay, this is a famous story. The course is finished, and they decided, well, okay, we're going to publish it. And they come to Helen and say, hey, Helen, how many books should we print for this? And everyone's gathered around. The elders of the course are gathered around. How many books should we print? And she says, 6. And Judy Scott says, 6? Why only 6? She says, who do you think wants to read that they don't exist? And now we come full circle back to, that's right. Dorothy is the dream figure that doesn't exist. She's a dream figure. Helen's a dream figure. Judy's a dream figure. Ken's a dream figure. Dove's a dream figure. Wendy's a dream figure, and she's laughing. And Susie and Bally says, I love being a dream figure. And Mickey says, I'm a dream figure. Lorri and Gloria, and everybody's a dream. You got to laugh. So that fulfills the circle of why Helen said 6. That's it. Wendy says, Keith said the same thing. Turn me off. No one wants to hear it. Thank you for that, Wendy. Yeah. Turn me off. I love that. Turn me off.
Yeah, I think that's really funny because obviously Keith wants to hear it because Keith is the one who's saying it. So, that's I want to hear this because I'm the one who's saying it. Doesn't matter if somebody else is listening because there is nobody else. It's that's the funny thing about all of it. I'm only doing it for myself.
Okay.
Mickey, go ahead, please.
You got to laugh. You simply got to laugh.
I think I've heard a few people say that, and I think that if you really believe the course and you really want to talk about the course to other people and impart any wisdom whatsoever, you're going to say don't listen to me because I'm just going to tell you that you don't exist. Like and that's basically what I want to talk about later. It is we have to. I'll talk about it later. I want to save my voice because I feel like it's going already. But yeah, turn me off because we're just going to tell you that you don't exist. And who the heck wants to listen to that? It's it's the funniest joke of anything on all of us. So thanks.
Mickey, why wait for later? Now is the only time there is.
Now it's the only time. You want me to go on now? I
Hey, if you're
it's
willing to, I would love
it's
it.
up to Lynn.
Oh, absolutely. So yes, let me do this real quick. Would you, if you're willing to, it's not up to me, absolutely up to you. We have a lot of time. And I ask if anybody wants to take some time, you could do that now and then we
Sure.
can play we can play Keith or we can play some other stuff. So,
Oh, cool.
okay.
I haven't heard the key thing yet.
Oh,
So
it's a good one. Yeah.